Hello everyone and welcome back to the Book Quiller, where we take powerful books and distill them into thought-provoking, life-changing insights you can actually use. Today, we are diving into a book that doesn't tiptoe around feelings. It doesn't promise you endless positivity. In fact, it's going to tell you straight up, life is messy, pain is unavoidable. Pain is unavoidable. And yes, you can't give a F about everything. The book is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F by Mark Manson. So let's break it down chapter by chapter, idea by idea, so by the end you will know exactly what to give a F about and what to let slide. Chapter 1. Don't try. Let me start with a strange image. Picture a gravestone. On it are carved two simple words, don't try. Now, if you are wondering who in the world would want that written on their final resting place, it was Charles Bukowski, a writer, a poet, and a professional screw-up who somehow stumbled his way into success. Bukowski was not saying don't try at all. He was saying stop trying so damn hard to be something you are not. Stop pretending everything's okay when it's not. Stop chasing a perfect life. You see, this is where author introduces us to what he calls the feedback loop from hell. It goes like this. You feel bad. Then you feel bad about feeling bad. And before you know it, you are 3 layers deep into emotional quicksand. And the more you struggle, the more you sink. Stop caring so much about caring. Life's not supposed to be this constant highlight reel. You are going to feel sad sometimes, angry sometimes, lonely sometimes, and that's okay. Now, before you think this means becoming a cold, heartless robot, let's be clear. It's not about caring about nothing. It's about caring selectively. Imagine you have a tiny bag of coins. Each coin is a F you can give. You don't have an unlimited supply. You can spend them on your career, your relationships, your passion, or waste them on what someone said about your shoes. Spend too many coins on nonsense and you will have none left for the things that matter. Finally, author poses the big question. So, what's the point of this book anyway? It's this. You cannot have a meaningful life without a struggle. Stop asking, how can I be happy all the time? And start asking, what pain am I willing to endure? Because the quality of your life isn't determined by the number of pleasant moments you collect. It's shaped by the struggles you choose to face head on. Chapter 2. Happiness is a problem. Here's a truth most people don't want to hear. Happiness is a problem. Think about it. You don't actually want a life without problems. Sound weird? Right. But it's true. Because without problems, there's nothing to solve. No challenges to rise to. No sense of growth or achievement. Picture a giant panda wearing a superhero mask knocking on your door. You open it, and instead of handling your cookies, he says, you know, you are not as good looking as you think you are. And no one cares about your Instagram feed. Then he just walks away. That's Disappointment Panda's superpower. He tells you the uncomfortable truths you need to hear, even if they sting. Because those truths will set you free. See, happiness does not come from everything being perfect. Happiness comes from solving problems. The joy is in the process, not the outcome. You get a thrill when you figure something out. when you fix something broken, when you learn a skill you didn't have before. So, no problems is equal to no meaning. Choose your struggle. Ask yourself, what am I willing to suffer for? Because, let's be honest, everything has a cost. Love costs efforts, success costs time and energy, fitness costs sweat. If you are not willing to endure the process, you don't truly value the outcome. And one last reminder from author in this chapter. Emotions are overrated. We live in the world that says follow your heart, trust your feelings. But feelings are not facts. Just because you feel anxious doesn't mean you are in danger. Just because you feel insulted doesn't mean someone actually wronged you. So, the mature approach is that notice your feelings, but don't be ruled by them. Let them guide you, but double check their directions before you follow. Chapter 3. You are not special. Let's get brutally honest. You are not special. It's not special, and neither is that person who just posted another inspirational quote online. Now, before you take offense, hear me out. Life is hard, things fall apart, and the universe doesn't owe you anything just because you are you. We have been raised on a steady diet of you are unique, you can do anything. And sure, it sounds nice, but here's the downside. When everyone thinks they are destined for greatness, most people feel like failures when they turn out. Author calls this line tyranny of exceptionalism. It's the belief that if you are not extraordinary, you are worthless. But here's the truth. Being average is normal. Statistically, most of us are average at most things. That's just math. And that's not a bad thing, because the obsession with being special, it leads to entitlement, perfectionism, and a deep fear of failure. You might be thinking, okay, but if I am not going to be extraordinary, what's the point? The point is, you don't need to be exceptional to live a meaningful life. You just need to find what matters to you, commit to it, and stop measuring yourself against every highlight reel you see on social media. Your worth isn't in being better than everyone else, it's in showing up for the things and people you truly care about. Chapter 4. The Value of Suffering. Let's talk about onions. No, not the kind that make you cry in the kitchen, the kind Mark Manson calls the self-awareness onions. Self-awareness has layers. The first layer is knowing what you feel, like I'm angry. The second is knowing why you feel it. I'm angry because my coworker took credit for my work. The third, the deeper layer, is that understanding your personal values. Maybe you value fairness and recognition, which is why it stung so much. Peel back the layers and you learn what really drives your emotions. Here's another reminder. No matter how much you achieve, you will still have problems. Even rock stars have rock star problems like jealous fans, media pressure, creative burnout. Here, author introduces shitty values. They are first, always being right. If your value is I must always be right, you are setting yourself up for endless frustration. Why? Because you are human. You will be wrong sometimes. This value makes you defensive, closed minded, and unable to learn from mistakes. Second, chasing external approval. If your self worth depends on other people's validation, likes, compliments, applause, you will never be satisfied. One bad comment, one disapproving look, and your confidence collapses. Third, being rich or famous at any cost. Money and recognition are not bad by themselves, but if they are your core value, you will sacrifice health, relationships, and integrity just to get them. And here's the kicker, no amount will ever feel enough. Fourth, constant pleasure. If your main goal is to always feel good, like eating, drinking, binge watching, hooking up, you will avoid challenges, avoid growth, and ironically end up less happy. A life without a struggle is a life without meaning. Fifth, being the center of attention. If you constantly need to be admired or in the spotlight, you will shape your life around what entertains others instead of what truly matters to you. Why shitty values hurt? Shitty values are like chasing a moving target. You never hit it, and even when you do, it moves again. They keep you anxious, insecure, and dependent on things you can't fully control. On the other hand, there are good values. They are based on reality, are socially constructive, and are within your control. Things like honesty, curiosity, and self respect. The two rules of good values. First, reality based. They are grounded in truth, not fantasy. For example, a bad value, I want everyone to like me. This ignores reality. Not everyone will, no matter what you do. A good value, I want to be kind and respectful to others. This works with reality. You can act with kindness regardless of how others respond. Second, good values are controllable. A controllable value is something you can directly influence by your own actions without relying entirely on other people's or luck. For example, a bad value, I must win every argument. You cannot control whether someone agrees with you. A good value, I will listen carefully and speak honestly in every conversation. That's fully in your control and it leads to healthy relationships. Think of it this way. Think of it this way. Bad values make you passenger in your own life. Good values put you in the driver's seat. And once you start living by values rooted in reality and shaped by your own choices, the road ahead suddenly feels a whole lot clearer. So here's the thing. If you want a better life, you need better values. Ones you can control, ones rooted in reality. Because the quality of your values becomes the quality of your problems, and the quality of your problems that becomes the quality of your life. Once again, I repeat, because the quality of your values becomes the quality of your problems, and the quality of your problems that becomes the quality of your life. Chapter 5. You are always choosing. Life is full of choices, some big, some small, and here's the thing, whether you realize it or not, you are always making them. Author says, even when you feel like you don't have control, you still choose how to respond. For example, you did not choose for it to rain on your wedding day, but you can choose whether to laugh it off and dance in the rain or sit in the corner sulking. Now, here's a big one. Responsibility and fault are not the same thing. If a drunk driver hits you, it's not your fault, but dealing with the medical bills, your recovery and your how you move forward, that's your responsibility. We don't control everything that happens to us, but we control how we handle it. Author shares stories of people who faced tragedy, losing loved ones, getting sick, going broke, yet turned their pain into something meaningful. The common factor, they choose to take responsibility for their lives instead of playing the victim forever. Of course, we can't ignore genetics or upbringing. Some people are born with better health, more supportive families, and more opportunities. That's the hand you are dealt. Once upon a time, being a victim was something people tried to overcome. Now, in the age of social media, something strange has happened. Being a victim has become a badge of honor. Author calls this phenomena victimhood chick. What it means? Victimhood chick is when people compete over who has suffered more, who has been treated the worst, or who is more oppressed in some way. Instead of trying to solve problems or grow stronger, the focus shifts to showing the world how unfairly life has treated you. Because in certain circles, the more wronged you appear, the more social points you get. Why it's dangerous? At first glance, it might look like empathy, sharing struggles, telling your story. And yes, being heard matters. But here's where it turns toxic. First, it encourages powerlessness. If your identity is built on being a victim, you lose motivation to change things. The story becomes, I can't do anything because life is unfair, instead of, life is unfair but I will act anyway. Second, it rewards outrage over action. In the age of likes, shares, and retweets, being publicly offended can bring attention. But attention is not the same as progress. Third, it creates a culture of one-upmanship. People start competing over whose suffering is more valid instead of helping each other heal. Victimhood chick shifts the focus from responsibility to blame. And here's the truth. Yes, bad things might not be your fault, but it's still your responsibility to decide how you respond. Author's point is simple. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can always control how you choose to live with it. And here's the final punch of this chapter. There's no magic how, no secret formula for a perfect life. You choose, act, and adjust. That's it. Chapter 6. You are wrong about everything. This chapter starts with a humbling truth. We are all wrong about a lot of things. We believe we are logical, reasonable people, but most of the time we are just making guesses and filling in the blanks with our own assumptions. We are the architects of our own beliefs, building them from our experiences. But here's the problem. We tend to defend those beliefs as if they are absolute facts, even when evidence says otherwise. That's why author warns, be careful what you believe. Once an idea gets stuck in your head, your brain will go out of its way to prove it's true, even if it's not. This is called confirmation bias. The danger of pure certainty. It closes the door to growth. If you are 100% sure you are right, you stop listening, stop questioning, and stop learning. Author even came up with something called Manson's law of avoidance. Manson's law of avoidance. What does that mean? We all like to think we are brave, that we face life head on. But the truth is, when something challenges the way we see ourselves, we tend to run from it. It's not always conscious. Sometimes we disguise it as procrastination. For example, perfectionism or waiting for the right time. But deep down, it's avoidance. For example, the aspiring writer say dreams of publishing a novel, but actually sitting down to write terrifies her. Why? Because if she fails, she is no longer a future great writer. She is just a failed one. The guy who wants to start a business. He tells himself he is still researching ideas, but really, he is avoiding the risk of finding out whether he is capable or not. So, why we avoid? The reason is simple. Our identity feels safe. If we see ourselves as smart, talented, or destined for great things, then doing something that might prove otherwise feels like a threat. So, we avoid the action, not because it's hard, but because it might prove we are not who we think we are. How to break Manson's law of avoidance. First, detach from outcome. Focus on doing the thing, not on protecting your self image. Second, accept you will be wrong or fail sometimes. Failure isn't proof you are worthless, it's proof you are trying. Third, choose growth over ego. Being wrong now often means being better later. So, the uncomfortable truth is this: the things we avoid the most are usually the things we need the most. And the faster we face them, the faster we grow. Because your identity isn't something to protect, it's something to keep evolving. Chapter 7: Failure is the Way Forward. Most of us see failure as the enemy, but author flips that idea. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's the path to it. Think of a baby learning to walk. They fall 100 times, but each fall teaches them something like balance, timing, coordination. Without falling, they would never walk. This is the failure success paradox. The more you fail, the more you learn, and the more likely you are to succeed. Pain is the part of process. No one builds a great life without frustration, mistakes, and setbacks. Those struggles are the training ground for resilience. And here's my favorite takeaway from this chapter: the do something principle. The do something principle, it's based on a very human problem. We wait to feel motivated before we act. But motivation does not always show up, so we do nothing. The common belief about motivation. Most of us think motivation works like this: first inspiration, then motivation, and then action. Like, first we feel inspired, then we get motivated, then we take action. It sounds logical, but in real life it's backward. How it really works: first is action, and then inspiration, and then motivation. In other words, action isn't the end result of motivation, it's the cause of motivation. You don't wait to feel ready. You start doing something, anything, and that action creates the momentum that fuels motivation. Why this works: when you take even a tiny steps, you prove to yourself you can move forward. That progress gives you a small win. That win sparks more motivation to keep going. Let's take an example: the student and the math homework. Imagine you have been avoiding your math homework for hours. You think, I'll start when I feel ready, but ready never comes. Instead, you decide, I'll just open the book and do the first problem. 10 minutes later, you are halfway through the homework. You didn't start because you were motivated. You became motivated because you started. So, the next time you are stuck, remember this: don't wait to feel motivated. Don't wait for clarity or confidence. Just do something, anything, because action isn't the reward at the end of motivation. It's the engine that creates it. Chapter 8: The Importance of Saying No. In a world that tells you to say yes to every opportunity, author says, learn to say no. Why? Because every yes is a no to something else. Your time, your energy, your attention, they are limited. If you say yes to every request, you will have nothing left for what truly matters. Rejection, surprisingly, makes life better. It filters out the people and situations that are not aligned with your values. This is where boundaries come in. Boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They are fences that protect your space and keep relationships healthy. Trust is built when two people respect each other's boundaries. When someone says, I can't make it today, and you respect that, trust grows. And here's the big twist: real freedom comes through commitment. When you commit to a career, a relationship, or a goal, you stop wasting energy on endless options. You focus, you go deep, and you find meaning. Chapter 9. And then you die. It sounds dark, but it's actually freeing. Because when you remember life is short, you stop wasting it on things that don't matter. Author talks about finding something beyond yourself, a cause, a community, a purpose bigger than your own comfort. When your values reach beyond your own life, they give you strength and meaning. He calls it the sunny side of death. The reminder that our time is limited is what makes it precious. If you knew you were going to live forever, nothing would feel urgent, nothing would feel valuable. But because life ends, every choice, every relationship, every moment counts more. And that's the subtle art of not giving a F. It's not about caring less, it's about caring better. Choosing what's worth your time, energy, and heart, and letting go of the rest. Life is too short to give your F to everything. So decide, what are you willing to struggle for? What's worth your attention? What's worth your love? If you enjoyed the summary, subscribe to the book Quiller for more life-changing insights. Because the best book don't just entertain you, they transform the way you see the world. Until next time, choose wisely, live fully, and remember, not every battle is worth your F. Thank you so much.